It gets quiet all of a sudden. Yep. All right, it is 5:30. We will call this February 3rd Board of Works meeting in order. Please rise and join me. Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Clerk Treasurer Price, will you please call roll?
Mayor Yates.
Here.
Present.
Present.
All right. The meeting minutes from the January 20th and 27th special meeting have been presented for review. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second it.
All right, any discussion with the meeting minutes
No.
that Julie submitted? All right, hearing none, all in favor of approving the meeting minutes from January 20th and January 27th, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye, motion carries. Next item of business is the claims for January or February 3rd, total 1-8.
January 27th,
What's that?
the January 27th meeting minutes.
We did them both.
Did
Okay.
I just said 20. Okay.
Yeah, well, we can modify if you want. So we'll do, so all in favor of approving the January 20th meeting minutes, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All right, so we'll do it separately for the record. So our motion to approve the January 27th special meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Keenery. Any discussion on those?
Nope.
All right, separate motion. All in favor of approving the January 27th special meeting minutes, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, motion carries. Okay, so we got those, you got those separate, Julie, for the, okay. Next item of business is the claims total $823,405.81. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the claims?
The B&I payments, the principal and interest, which is that, what is that project for?
Bond.
The
Yeah,
bonding.
that is the bond. Yep,
Those
so,
bonds alone, 500,000, otherwise the doctor could have been a lot longer, but the bonding payments were for 500.
yep, which is usually every February, that's when the bond payments for that are due. So that's, yeah, again, that's why it's a little bit higher this time, but any other questions or discussion with the claim submitted for this evening? No,
At the end.
okay. All in favor of approving the claims for $823,405.81, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye, motion carries. Not a whole lot on the business docket tonight, other than last week we were able to submit the CCMG 2025-1. Actually, turned out to be good timing because Friday NDOT system crashed. Their network crashed, so didn't crash completely. It just everybody was submitting it by the deadline, which was 5 o'clock, and so they extended the deadline to, I believe, till the end of this week, so everybody has a chance to get it in. But we changed ours up just a little bit with what we budgeted this year. With the 500,000 for CCMG, we went ahead and maxed out our total match for the project. So we added to hopefully offset if we get approved some of our preventative maintenance projects, which is HMA and micro sealing, which usually goes on towards the latter part of the year. We submitted for those too. So it was all they're going to do is they're really going to approve it or they're not. So it didn't hurt anything by submitting it. If they've done this in the past, and if they say no to those because of other projects that's in the area or funding, then at most, or at least we'll probably still get the larger project, which we submitted again was Market Street and Adams. So the engineering on that did not change. We did work in some Frontier Communications. We had them change their scoping a little bit so it didn't interfere with the project if it is approved for funding. Next item of business is going to be the excavation permit request for 115 East Vine Street, which is NIPSCO for the Hammonds property. Is there a motion to approve? Any
So moved.
I'll second it.
discussion on that? That is up here by the, it's the duplexes that they're currently working on that, they've had a couple small hiccups, but now NIPSCO's ready to install the gas line. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be right in the area where we had the
water line.
the line already cut or the road cut. So they usually put it back the way it is. So it's less than 3 months old, the asphalt, but the agreement is if they cut any part of the road, they have to put it back as is or better. So NIPSCO is usually pretty good about that. So that's the intention behind this one, is to install the gas service for 115 East Vine Street. Any questions on that excavation permit?
Is that what the cold patch is?
Yep.
It's like, okay.
Yep. So when they get all done, they'll go through and they'll put 53 stone, compact it. They do that in lifts, and then the top layer will be HMA. And I don't know that they'll get that done until probably the asphalt plants open back up, which will probably be, well, it's Indiana. It could have been today, I
says it
guess.
until
It's warm enough
weather,
today.
so-
So they'll leave it as stone, keep packing it in until the time that the asphalt plants, and then go and do a final repair. So
Gotcha.
any other questions on 115 East Vine Street?
No.
No. All right. Hearing none. All in favor of approving the excavation permit for 115 East Vine Street, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion carries. The only other item we had tonight was a big announcement for Saturday. This coming Saturday at noon, Delphi firefighter, longtime firefighter, over 60 years, Bill Schock, will be retiring. Is that correct, Chief Dillon?
Mhm.
Yeah, over 60 years of service. So they're going to be celebrating his retirement at the fire department at noon. So that's quite a long time for someone in the fire service, and should be a good time. Hopefully the public can go shake Bill's hand, and certainly deserved. So yeah, other than that, any board comments?
I'd just like to thank Mr. Schock for his service. That is a incredibly long time to serve in that capacity. So
It is. And he'll be there Saturday. So
yeah, I will thank him in person.
Yeah.
but-
none for Treasurer Price.
Yep.
Public comments.
Just like checking to see if the firefighter pay for the trial time period was spent for funds.
It has not. I was told that you need to talk to your attorney because I've spent a lot of time on the phone with 3 different governmental boards, and the way that you submitted it cannot be paid because they are not individual contractors and you do not have W-9s. So that's for the labor board, state board of
So-
accounts, and another government entity.
Many times now I've submitted different ways to try to.
You have, but they're not approving it. We have to make sure it's legal before we can do it.
Of the 500 and how much $1,000 this time? $823,000. How much of that is approved by somebody that you call on the phone?
They are vendors. They're not vendors. They are volunteer firefighters who are not on an hourly wage. They get paid by run and with their equipment. That being said, I've also talked to the labor board. They can't, I've tried everything. We're trying to figure it out.
So. if
Our
they're
attorney
not
says you need to talk to your
payroll,
attorney.
Then aren't they vendors?
They are not vendors. They don't have a W-9. They're not contractors. They are not vendors. I went that route as well. I tried to go that route for you and they said absolutely not. They have to have a W-9 and they do not have a W-9 because they are not a contractor. They are
So-
volunteer firefighters that cannot be paid an hourly wage for like contracting. It doesn't work like that. I trust me, I tried everything. I spent all last week on the phone.
Can they submit a W-9?
They're not, the labor board says they can't be paid that way. The state board of accounts says absolutely not. I've talked to 3 different entities and they've all said the same thing.
So what are
So
they-
we are at a standstill until they figure it
For
out.
run pay, when they get paid for run pay, are they vendors then? Or are they employees?
No, they are volunteer firefighters that get a run pay that were agreed for a run pay. You, as an officer, and the other officers are on the salary ordinance to get paid a salary because you are officers. So that in turn poses another problem because all of them, except for two that you turned in things, are officers. So talking to the State Board of Accounts and the Labor Board, for them to be officers and turn in an hourly wage when they're not employees of the city, you're turning in for an hourly wage, that's like double dipping. So they're getting salary pay because they're officers on the wage and salary ordinance, plus an hourly wage that was turned in for them.
So what is?
Their
my-
biggest thing
real
is,
quick, what is my salary as a fire chief? If I make $1,800.
that's what
So
you're,
is
that's
that my
what's agreed to.
salary?
for
That's
your
what's on the
salary,
ordinance.
yes.
That's irrelevant. It's whatever's approved on the salary ordinance.
So you're saying the Delphi Fire Department is the only fire department in the state that can't pay their volunteers to do something extra?
I'm not saying that, I'm telling you what I was told when I called. They're telling me that because it was never discussed, never approved by either board, no one knew about it till 2 weeks after they were already
It's a-
over there.
Just real quick, it's a approved line item in our budget for volunteer fire. pay.
Not for hourly wage people, though. They're not hourly wage people. They're volunteer firefighters that are not on a wage or salary ordinance.
If we have a line item that is called part-time firefighter pay, and there's $47,000 in it, that's been approved for 2 years now by BLGF, unanimously approved by the board 2 years in a row. We have a line item in our budget, title of it, volunteer fire department part-time pay.
Yes, my understanding with that was when you did that, when you budgeted it, that was for a position, paid positions that was certified to serve over in your fire department for the week. That's what my understanding was when you budgeted that $47,000 because you were fighting with 501(c) or C3.
So
So they cannot be paid an hourly wage as volunteer firefighters. The
Can,
labor board says that there's no
the labor board says,
employer.
labor board says that they can be paid up to $20,000.
I asked about that as well.
As a nominal fee.
I asked about that as well.
The most somebody's being paid there now for that time that we could submit a claims for is $1,800,
Right,
well under the $20,000 nominal.
right. And I asked about that as well. And they told me that to be able to do that, but like what you're talking about, is we would have to go back with all of your runs for the last probably 2 to 3 months. Take those, average out what the amount of time was that's spent on those runs. Take that, average it out, divide it, and then be able to give you an hourly wage that direction if you wanted to do a stipend that
Stipend.
direction. It's going to take a lot of digging and it's gonna take a lot of time to be able to do that. But they're not suggesting that we do that. They said because nothing was approved and they're not hourly employees.
We already separated how much each run was. It's a separate line item. It's called run pay.
But you didn't even put hours on there. It was just, there was a date, they turned in an invoice, it said date, and then what we owed them.
I've turned in claims that have the city's timesheet attached to it with the date, their start time, their end time, and their hours. You told me that because they're not city employees,
They can't be
Can't
paid
be
an
paid
hourly wage,
so if they're not city employees,
but I'm, yes,
then they're contract.
there's
So-
no employee-employer relationship there per the labor board. I'm just telling you what they told me, Dan. I'm not fighting you and I'm not disagreeing that they don't need to be compensated for the work that they've done over there. I'm just telling you that we need to do it legally
been
because
4
it's my
months.
name on the line at the end of the day and I'm not going to be responsible for doing something illegal.
Firefighters that worked at the fire department haven't been compensated or even communicated with for 4 months.
Haven't been communicated with by who?
The only thing I can
We've
tell you
had
is
several
that there's
territory
something
meetings.
Says doesn't meet
Yeah.
standard.
No, she's reaching out to the proper boards that's telling her the information that she's getting,
We
so.
had our meeting, what, 2 weeks ago?
Mhm.
And then I find out only because I'm here to ask if the claims have been submitted. No, they haven't. Still wrong.
Have you been over to the city building since then?
That you, your attorney, and that's what I told you at the meeting, is that your attorney probably
Two
needs to
weeks
look
ago,
at it.
I submitted the claims. You couldn't have emailed me and says, hey, we still run into a problem here.
I guess I could have, but no one ever answers my emails when I email, so.
so can I ask a question? Can they submit a W-9 as a service instead
They're
of
not
as
vendors,
our?
they cannot do, they cannot be an individual contractor. I asked the labor board. He
Okay.
said, no, they can't do it that way, and so did the State Board of Accounts. Because they said if we audit you, you are going to get written up for it if you do it that way.
So
We're
we
trying
pay-
to find a solution.
Yeah,
It's not that we
yeah,
don't think they need to be paid.
Yeah,
That's not the issue. The issue is making sure that it's done legally across the board.
yeah. I'm
You
just
say-
asking to
So,
You
understand.
paid Case and Bishop and Eli Bender last year as private contractors for the work they did on the truck. $300 each.
But
So-
was it listed on there as a private contractor? Did you,
It was
like, how did
listed
you
as
list
Case
it
and
for the
Bishop
pay?
on the name line, like the person who you put on the name line on the claim form said Case and Bishop.
But did you do it as an individual contractor? Is that what you did? Was an individual contractor and put an individual contractor with an invoice on it
So
for
you
me?
could Put like Case and Bishop / individual contractor on the line, like I just put Case and Bishop on the line.
Because normally when we do that, like I'm looking for like run cave and clothings and whatever. Did you specifically put on there what it was for?
Yep.
Cause, okay, so I'll look back at that and see, and maybe I can pull that out and that'll be an issue that we can pull up. I don't know. I'm just telling you what they've told me for the last, like.
What did they do?
almost all
Just
last
truck
week on the phone.
maintenance?
Is a payee certificate, is that a possibility? Do you know?
A what?
A payee cert?
I don't know. I'm just telling,
It's a tax
I'm just
document.
saying the hourly thing. And the way everything was done and the way the hourly pay was put in and the way the W-9 with the vendors and contractors, trust me, I have exhausted all
Yes.
questions.
Yeah.
I've talked to 3 or 4 different entities and everybody told me the same thing.
Well, so for a payee cert, you can use that as a tax document to pay someone for a service, even if they are an employee, is my
What's it
understanding.
called? Pay what?
I will say,
Payee
I will
cert.
say this too, when I talked to the State Board of Accounts, they said, was any of this ever approved? And I said, it was not approved.
Yeah,
Not by the,
and you
not
might
by
have
our
to
board,
attach an
not by that
approval.
board,
There's a
yes.
line item for it.
Well, I'm like, you can attach, sometimes you can attach an approval with the,
Right, and they
The
said
payee
it
cert.
should have been approved by the Fire Territory Board, and it should have been approved by the council before it ever happened. And I said, okay, so. And she said, that's just how it should have been done.
So just for clarification, because I think this is important on how our budget works. We have an executive board. And I submit a budget, present a budget in June. In July, we have a joint meeting between the executive board and all 3 territory boards. We pause our meeting, present it to the township boards. They all vote individually, the township boards vote unanimously to approve our budget. Once they approve the budget, the executive board reconvenes. And they vote on the budget. And that is 3 township trustees, the mayor, and the city clerk. All 5 of them approved that budget.
Yes.
It's not the budget is the budget. We're talking about the line item that was used for the pay on that she submitted to the State Board of Accounts.
Budget approval goes from the city council. who approves
And your
it.
budget is a
And
proposal.
then it's proposed until it's submitted to DLGF. And DLGF approves it.
Yes,
And that budget with $47,000 for fire territory part-time pay was approved by DLGF and it's current on their budget.
So when you hire a part-time staff at the fire department, are they going to turn in tax forms?
They have
I'm saying when you hire someone, because that's the goal, right?
requirement at the W.
Right. So when you hire someone, if that 47,000 goes through, are they going to come through or are they going to do the tax
but
forms?
they would be employees, not volunteers. That's what they were. They were volunteers and they went from volunteers to hourly. And that's where the problem is. They can't go from volunteer to hourly pay. And so he was talking about stipend. We checked about that as well. The only way the stipend can go through is if we go back through and take all the average of all of those runs. And then he said, it's not we're gonna pay them $16 or $18 an hour, whatever they were promised. He said, we need to go by the amount of what the runs, so if it's a 10-minute run and they get whatever per run, and then they have a 2-hour run, he said, you take the average of those for the last 3 months, and then you have to divide it up, and that's what they would get paid, the stipend.
I think we should look into seeing if they can be paid for a service. I think that would be,
I'm gonna say, if anybody has suggestions, I'm willing to
yeah,
take it.
I
I
think
don't
we
wanna
should
be
look
made out to be the
into.
bad guy. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to make sure it's done legally.
I
it's
think
me
we
on
can
the
look
line.
into that. Yeah,
So
So
I
pay
don't know
what?
if Miriam
It's a
would like
payee
to speak
cert.
to their attorney and try to
so it's
work that
basically
out.
like if they
I
do anything outside of the
want
scope
to not
of.
pay them. They deserve to be compensated. It's the
So
idea of
ty-
making sure
typically
that
you
it's
would
all done
submit
the right way.
For taxes,
I
the
will
payee
let-
cert,
So,
the
and she's
approval,
aware because we
and
talked
a
about
W
it.
nine.
So, I mean, I don't have an issue paying them. It's just, at the end of the day, I'm the person that signs that line, so it comes back on me.
Right.
So that's where I stand with it as far as talking to everybody. I've been told no by the DLGF, I've been told by the State Board of Accounts, I've been told by the Labor Board. All three of them said no. So they're government entities and, you know, I mean, I like trust their judgment, so when they give me the green light, I have no problem going ahead with it. But I'm not gonna move forward to it until it's okay by them.
I will, touch base with Miriam on this and see if we can find anything that would.
She's familiar with it, so she should, if you have a difficult with a payee, or we might run that by her, but she is aware of this and a few others, so. Any further?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna, yes, Julia. This was not on the agenda. We did this
Yeah,
today, so.
And Saturday, when Paredes was part of the town, there was some complaints and issues with some of the businesses in the area. And so we have found, I think, a better alternative, and I've spoken with the other businesses around to move them to a different parking space. It's still on Washington Street, but it would be next door to the building that Tim Stewart owns, which is by Pizza King and Gangware Insurance. There's 2 parallel parking spots there. And I think actually it'll fit in one of them. And so we thought it's downwind from the businesses. It only takes up 1 parking space and none of the building, the businesses around it, they were all in favor of it. So that way he can have access to the electricity in the building. They'll give him a key. And so, yeah, I know it's only temporary, but it seemed to be better for everybody in that general area. If you would consider amending your.
I think we left it open to.
Yeah, we left it to, if that didn't work, that we would look at options and change as needed, so
Yeah.
that's.
It makes sense. I know you mentioned.
Yeah, mention alley and then, yep,
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
it's good, but inside of other businesses, it kind of permeates into the clothes and stuff like that.
okay.
So, yeah, so if you would consider letting him move and park there.
Yeah, so we voted to keep that open as needed. If it needed changed, we would change it. We needed to have feedback, and obviously we got the feedback Friday that was not a good location. So yeah, I think that's great that Drew
Yeah. Drew said-
brought that to our attention and everybody was in agreement with it because it's still in Washington. Food trucks are going to be found, plus at the spot that you can still see.
Right.
It's kind of away, so.
Access to electricity.
Um,
And plan to operate Thursday, Friday, Saturdays
okay,
until they're in the building, so.
okay. So we left that as a open to change at any time
Okay.
that it was needed. So we'll get for you. I'll put a motion on the floor, or we'll get a motion on the floor for the modification if we can. That way we can have the meeting minutes reflected that we did change it. So is there a motion to approve the newly proposed location by, what's that called? Drew's place Grub Grabber.
Grub Grabber.
Yeah. on the
Yeah, right outside.
west side of Washington, across from Regions Bank. Is there a motion to modify the placement of Paredes food truck for the times that were mentioned in last week's meeting, starting this week?
So moved.
Second,
Any further discussion with that? And Julie, you did talk to Ann and everybody there?
I talked to Gangware Insurance. Building number, so, yeah.
Okay. Any questions? All right, all in favor of approving the modification of placement for Paredes food truck to in front of Grub Grabber on Washington Street for the allotted times specified in last week's special meeting, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion carries. Thank you for looking into that, and I'll get with Drew and thank him as well. So glad it worked out, and it was a trial and error to see if it was going to work, and we found out that area's not gonna work, so hopefully this does for them and they get their doors open soon, so. All right. Any further public comments before we adjourn? Hearing none, there's one last motion.
Motion adjourned.
Did you want to check with Julie?
No.
I already did with her.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
sorry.
Yep.
Second.
All right, all in favor of adjourning the February 3rd Board of Works meeting, signify by stating aye.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, motion carries. This meeting is adjourned at 5:55. Thank you. All right.